What is happening, my friend?
Oh my God, we're back.
Where'd we go?
Into the ether for a little while.
Well, that's a good place for us to go.
You know, before we get too far down the road on our current episode, I'd like to personally thank our guest from our last March 1st episode, President Joe Biden. He made several appearances on the show, and his input was invaluable to our discussion of Ukraine, not the Ukraine.
What? Did we pull his audio up? I don't even remember.
He was here in the room with us.
Yes.
How could you forget?
I'm suffering from the same condition that Joe Biden has. I can't remember anything.
They wheeled him in a wheelchair, and we got his thoughts on the Ukraine.
That's not the only one.
The Ukraine, yeah, I know. No, we did bring his audio up from his one of his initial speeches about Ukraine.
That's right. I remember. Yeah.
So that was that aired on March 1st, but we recorded that a little prior to the beginning of March. So it was just happening.
Well, there's a lot happening in the world, as you say. War in the Ukraine.
Yeah, that's still going. So.
Climate change, mass shootings, January 6th Commission.
Let's talk for a minute about one of your favorite things.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of gun compromise going on in the Senate. I think that's a CYA for both sides of the
I think
aisle.
so, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? You know, I've said before, this gun control thing's not a huge issue for me because I don't care what they do. It's not gonna really make that much difference.
But you were always a guy that thought something should be done. Changes should be made.
Well, I'm not sure 18-year-olds should be able to buy, assault weapons. So, I mean, there's some common sense things, but I'm not looking to take anybody's guns or anything like that. But of course, it can only.
Some of your people are.
I don't know anybody that wants to do that. That's of any consequence.
Well,
right?
Some of the leadership in the Democratic Party want to do that.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if that's the case, right?
They are.
I've never heard anybody.
Beto is one.
Who?
Beto O'Rourke.
He's not even in the government.
He was.
He's unemployed.
He's trying to get back in. You think this guy
He's not going to beat Abbott.
You don't think so?
No.
I'm pretty sure Newsom does too. He wants to take away guns.
Well, he's a big nothing. So
he's only the governor of California. You can't hardly dismiss him as.
He's still the governor.
I know.
He's not running for president yet.
I understand, but he's in a position to influence and to guide.
Right.
The blind of the Democrats.
Well, what do you think? Why do you think any Republicans at all would get on board with some kind of watered-down gun control bill?
Dare I say it? I think McConaughey did a good job.
McConaughey.
Did you see his press conference?
I did.
Here's something I didn't see all of it, but I read some of it. But the part that I saw, which made a lot of sense to me, was he said something to the effect of, we're more aligned on this issue than we're not. Yeah. In other words, Republicans and Democrats, we agree more than we disagree on the fundamentals of what needs to be done. And I think he's right.
Yeah, I didn't disagree with anything he said. I mean, he kind of brought a like, hey, here's the common sense, everyman view on this that you're not hearing from either side of the political because it's just hyperbole on either side. The Dems want to take your guns away. The right wants to scare you into thinking the Dems want to take your guns away, and neither one are true. It's not like that. They just want to make some common sense changes I mean, everybody understands that that's a non-starter. I mean, this country's never going to give up. They have more guns than people.
I know. It's like 400 million, I think I read.
So by about 50 million guns.
And sadly, and I don't, maybe this would be, I'm sure that some psychologists have studied this, but sadly, after events like the one that happened in Uvalde, there are more gun purchases. Like these things drive up the gun sales.
Right.
Because people are fearful. And
that Uvalde thing is, again, Texas. So Texas is starting to be like Florida to me. It's like, depending on how far-fetched and ridiculous the situation is, the more out there it is, the more chance is happening in Florida or Texas. So,
what's interesting about that, and, Florida and Texas get a lot of shit from the left, but I believe Florida has previously raised the rifle purchase age to 21.
Yeah,
I think they did that a year or two ago.
Do they want a medal or a chest to pin it on? I mean, come on.
But here's the irony of it, and I got a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk and debate, as you say, about gun control. To my knowledge, most of the core, the fundamental pieces of the package that everybody agrees on are things that we're already doing here in California.
Yeah, probably.
But there's everything you can think of.
There's about to be a Supreme Court decision that may nullify whatever the hell they're doing.
Well, that one is what on high capacity magazines, I think.
It's the if the Supreme Court finds in favor of the gun side of this issue for whatever they're on, it's going to allow concealed weapon carry in almost every situation. Maybe there might be a couple carve outs, like maybe what did they say? Like like
At a baby shower?
Yeah. But I mean, it would be firstly where, everybody for maybe like public transportation.
Yeah.
Right. But other than that, in every movie, every supermarket, every store you go into, every public place, people will be able to go around with concealed weapons that, is illegal, especially in New York.
Well, yeah, there's a couple cases I'm aware of, but I can't ever keep them straight. Is it like the Ninth Circuit? Is it the Supreme Court? But yes, there's a New York one. This was fucking ridiculous, and it should be challenged and overruled. But there was something like if you legally owned, not even an assault rifle, but a pistol in New York, you couldn't put it in your car and drive it to the shooting range to shoot it unless you had a concealed carry permit or some permit that I don't know if it was the state of New York or the city of Manhattan. I'm not sure. But it was one of those stupid things that it's like, wait a minute, I have a constitutional quote unquote right to own this thing, yet I can't ever leave it at my house with it.
You're right.
So, the argument was, well, you own it, so your right is protected.
Was that just in New York?
I believe that was just New York.
So what in California, if you have a legal gun that you own legally, whatever that means, then you can put it in your trunk and drive it to the range.
Yeah, there are laws that specify, for example, the gun has to be in a locked case separate from the driver's compartment and separate from the ammunition.
So the thought of a gun owner in California, or I guess New York, carrying a weapon for self-defense is really not legally possible.
Well, from this law, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in California, right? It's like if
therein lies the issue, because really what this is extended into is, okay, if you believe you have a constitutional right to own a firearm for self-protection, the argument from the gun groups is that should extend to self-protection beyond my home, because I don't spend 24 hours a day in my home. So when I leave my house, don't I have the same constitutional right to defend myself?
Right, that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah. And they're saying, well, if you're taking away my right to take my firearm with me, then I don't have that anymore.
Or I have to take it with me in a way that I can't possibly use it for self-defense.
Yes.
If a revolution breaks out and I have time to get to my car, unlock my trunk, unlock my gun, load my gun, then maybe.
Which, by the way, is exactly what it is in California, but people accept it largely because you're going to lose anyway, because this is the state's been taken over by activists. But also, it's still not illegal. I can still transport my firearm in the way that I described here in California, but in New York, you couldn't even do that.
Okay, so that
was the issue.
That was a new law or a new regulation that went into effect and got challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court.
And it's supposed to be overturned, but I don't think it has been yet.
Well.
And in California, there's another one about, I think it's high-capacity magazines, which for as long as I can remember, it's been limited to 10 rounds in a magazine, whether it's a pistol or
if you're going to shoot down more
rocket.
If you're going to shoot down more than 10 kids in their classroom, I guess they want that to be illegal. For the first 10, it's a pass, right?
Man, that's one of those things too that obviously, if any mass shooting is terrible. But when it comes to kids, maybe it's because I have young kids, that's the one that to me is like, that's at another level.
Right.
It's fucking terrible.
But I mean, nothing's going to stop that, right?
Well, so isn't that really the question? If nothing's going to stop it, what are all these gun laws, these compromises really doing?
That's a good question, which is the one I've been saying all along. That's why it's not a big issue to me. I don't see any clear answer. I mean, I have no problem with any kind of common sense registration or anything that helps you trace.
I don't either.
Trace, responsibility after the fact.
Me too.
And so things like ghost guns, of course, that should, on the face
which
of it.
It's so dumb. Right? That was one of Biden's first, stroke of a pen executive order. I'm taking action on gun control.
Ghost guns.
And I'm not allowing ghost guns. You know how many mass murders there have been with ghost guns?
Yeah, how many? None.
I'm pretty sure none.
Right, but and that's not where the ghost guns are. They're being used in really, crime, right? I mean, So yeah, mass shootings are happening with long guns and
most of them are
semi-military, semi-automatic AR-15 knockoffs and whatever the hell is out there.
But here's an interesting point. I don't want to sound like a defeatist here, but I'm pretty sure all of the gun control requests and the compromise that is going to happen finally in the U.S. In the Senate side, I'm pretty sure all that stuff we already have in California, such as, the age to purchase a rifle is 21.
Is it in California?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Because didn't we raise tobacco too? Isn't tobacco 21?
I believe that it is.
I think so too. And all the shit, from your era, or back in the Vietnam days, didn't we
when I was 6?
Didn't we in this country for a period of time lower the alcohol age to 18? And wasn't that Vietnam era time because soldiers were saying, "Hey, if I'm old enough to go fight and die, I should be able to drink." And
I think the alcohol, I don't remember it ever being at 18 in California, at least. I know it is maybe in some parts of the country. I know I had to go to Mexico to drink at 18 or Arizona. I went to Arizona and drank at 18, but
and it was an hour earlier, so it was 5 o'clock sooner,
right.
So you could go there and
right.
drink.
Well, we went to the river, right? And so we were on the Arizona side in some campsite, and we went out the first day and sunburned the holy crap out of ourselves on inner tubes going down the river. So the next day would have been suicide to expose ourselves to the sun. So there was a store in the campground that had a pool table in the back of the jukebox. So pretty much the next couple of days we were there, that's all we did was drink beer, imported beer at this store for an exorbitant price and play pool and listen to Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, that's like the greatest summer ever, right? On the
well,
inner tubes.
Yeah, it was just a weekend.
Drink beer all day, piss yourself in the river.
Everybody. So we had this campsite, and we went down in a couple of vehicles. Most of us went in a van, but there was no actual
a van down by the river.
Down by the river. There was actually no camping gear. I mean, we were kids, right? And so we would
You're hippies sleeping in tree houses
drink
and
ourselves into a coma and wake up out in the open.
Feeling great the next day.
Yeah, I remember waking up, looking around. All my friends are, there's like 6 of us there, and everybody's just. There was a couple girls too, and so that was like the big allure. Like, oh, somebody's going to get drunk and get loose, and that never happened. But we all did get plastered and ended up passed out wherever we were sitting the night before. Oh yeah, I remember he was over there. Oh yeah, there's Tim. He's down face down in the dirt.
Meanwhile, no one ever goes to help Tim.
No, can he breathe? Well, what difference is it?
You alive, dude?
Yeah. So that was fun.
But here's what I was going to say about this gun shit. You doing all right?
Yeah.
Is if you take what I am pretty sure, what's the laws of the land here in California, you apply it to the rest of the nation like they're finally talking about doing. Most of it I support, and the common sense stuff makes sense. But we still have had mass shootings in California. So those, I guess we shouldn't kid ourselves that those changes will prevent or stop, like what you just said.
Well,
because we still have that here.
I'm too cynical to agree with your reason. You think why any Republicans are on board after this such a long time of.
Why do you think they're on board?
Well, there's only one reason. They don't
because they think they are going to lose the grasp of the midterms that's in their reach.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want this to be an emotional political wedge that ends up biting them in the ass, right? I mean, I don't know how many more times you got to knock out 19 children at a clip. Right? How many more times that has to happen before the election to really get on the wrong side of this issue? So,
well, that's the other thing that McConaughey said, which I agreed with, and he opened his speech, I guess, if this was the opening. He said something about how do we make this tragedy? How do we make the loss of these lives matter?
Yeah.
And one way to do that is to finally make change. And if that's the catalyst, or even if it's for their own self-preservation, that the Republicans in the Senate will do this, then so be it.
Since Uvalde, there's been like 30 mass shootings.
No way.
Yeah, anything over 3 people is a mass shooting.
Don't you think we should revise that number?
Well,
what do you think a mass shooting should be?
I mean, listen, I don't think that one person getting shot by another, as a result of an argument or a crime or something should be considered a mass shooting. But I mean, when you're taking out 3 people, that's
Does that include gang violence?
Oh, I think it includes anything. I think any shooting that results in death of more than 3 people is put into the mass shooting pile. So you have a lot of situations.
Well, I'm asking you, what do you think? Is 3 the number?
I think that it's hard to. I think besides the fact that it's kind of irrelevant, who cares what the definition of
I know,
mass shooting
just having
is,
fun with you.
Yeah, but I think that probably you leave it at that, because I think the other kind of shootings are a different kind of problem. I mean, here, I think mass shootings are usually the roles of some kind of mental breakdown, some kind of, I mean, here's the thing you're hearing a lot of now. Right now, at some school somewhere, there's a potential mass murderer being bullied and picked on by his friends.
Is that what it is?
That's what they're saying, a lot of it is. But here's the number. Mental illness only plays a part in mass shootings less than 10% of the time. So that's a statistic that came out directly after Uvalde. And it's because that's the one thing, that's the big reason that people on the right blame for the fact that mass shootings continue. Well, it's not a gun thing. It's not because there are assault weapons or anything like that. It's because there's a lot of untreated mental illness, and we need to do a better job of identifying it and treating it before they turn into mass shooters.
Or you disagree with that?
Well, I mean, what's 10% of 19?
Yeah, but think of it this way: if you
1.9,
if you have the desire that translates into action to go and kill 19 people or 3 people or 1 person, don't you think there's that in and of itself is mental illness? Maybe it's not diagnosed, but fuck, I mean, there's something that you're missing there. I don't know if it's a bone or a wire or something.
I get that definition. I mean, you can extend that to any kind of crime almost. Right?
Yeah.
Anybody that commits a crime, anybody that commits a robbery, has some kind of mental illness.
Right.
Because anybody that's sane knows that that's the wrong decision. But I think that the actual definitions for mental illness are a little more complicated.
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm just saying that at the end of, so how do you identify it? Could you diagnose
I think
it?
People that know right from wrong and decide
I love when you say that.
And decide to do wrong, that's not mental illness. That's a decision, and you just need to take responsibility.
What is it? Because you frame that nicely over the years of this show, and you say it's just a matter of understanding right and wrong, and even a young child understands that. So, what is the thing that pushes you to act on the wrong?
Well, when you don't look at a situation and say, I'm going to do the wrong thing, you look at a situation and you look at the wrong thing and you think it's right. That's when it's mental illness.
Well, something's wrong there.
Something is
or is
wrong.
It? I don't know. Who's on first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that's wrong there is mental illness, right? When a guy robs somebody and decides to shoot the guy because he doesn't want to be identified, that's not mental illness. That's a decision. I'm going to eliminate this witness to my crime. Is that
narcissism?
Yes, narcissistic self-preservation.
Is that a definition of mental illness?
Well,
narcissism,
malignant narcissism, such as President Trump, as his
we got to get into that
that's
too.
His diagnosis. So
the other thing you mentioned statistics, but the other thing I read, and I read it from 2 sources. I didn't read the actual article, but something like 80% of the mass shootings 80% of the mass shooters had one thing in common, and it was identified as a hatred of women.
Oh.
And even this Uvalde kid, didn't he kill his grandmother or attempt to kill her before he went to the school?
He killed her.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say...
Stole her truck and drove it into a ditch.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know what that's... I mean, wouldn't it have been more efficient to drive the truck to the school than drive it into a ditch, get out and run?
I guess. But isn't that interesting that, if that's what's happening here, a hatred of women? I mean, is that...
I think all the mass shootings like this in that category are mental illness. I mean, the guy in Las Vegas that shot into the festival. In the parking lot of what was that? Whatever the hell that was.
It was a music festival, and he got, there was, how many victims there?
Yeah, like
30, 50, something like that.
Something like that. And just over and over again. I mean, so many screwed up white kids,
I think it's video games. No, I've said this before. I don't have any research on it. I've never heard anybody say anything. What do you think? It's not Call of Duty?
Video games?
Yeah.
I played something called I played a video game over the weekend with my nephew. It's called I can't remember the name.
Who won?
Oh, he won. I wasn't playing against him. We were on the same team.
That's good.
One of the characters leads the strategy of the game. The other one is kind of support. So he gave me the controller. He goes, "Oh, Uncle Mike, you be number 1." and I didn't know what to do. I hadn't touched a game controller in 5 years. So
what console was it?
I don't know.
Xbox, PlayStation?
Nah, it's a
computer,
Switch or something.
Switch?
Yeah.
Oh, it shows you what I know.
Some weird shit. we hooked it up to my 65-inch television screen, so it was pretty awesome. But I mean, all we did was kill stuff. I mean, my 7-year-old is sitting there going, "Kill, kill, 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 kill." I'm like, Jesus. Look at his mom going, "Really?
Are you not, contributing to the delinquency of a minor?
Look, I was just happy that he was talking to me. Hey, Uncle Mike, you want to play this video game with me? Fuck yeah. If anything you're still interested in doing with me, Uncle Mike's down with it.
Did you have fun killing shit?
He did all the killing.
What were you guys killing? Like aliens or people?
So, not aliens, but monsters in a fantasy land.
Is it better if you're killing monsters than instead of?
I don't know. I watched. There's a season of a show based on Halo available on one of the streaming services. So you know what Halo is?
Yeah,
right?
I know the game.
So I used to play Halo on Xbox with Brian, and so I watched the whole show. Right, it just makes you want to play Halo.
Did you ever play it?
On Xbox a long time ago, but I never. Then I moved on to PlayStation. I thought PlayStation was better, so Halo back then was not available on PlayStation.
Is it now?
I think so. I think they made an agreement finally.
Yeah, it's like Apple and Google. They got to start sharing.
Yeah.
And Microsoft.
Yeah. So interesting, but I just don't have the. I just don't know if I have the time anymore to do that. Although it's so easy to hook these things up to your big.
Yeah, but
TV
it's addicting. That's the thing, is how much time these kids spend in video games.
Well, I mean, when I think back to the 7 hours of television I watched a day as a kid, is it any different? I don't know.
Yeah, but how old were you when that started to taper? Or how old were you when you were still watching 7 hours of TV?
Well, I mean, by the time I got to be a teenager, I wasn't watching TV.
You were driving,
anymore.
right?
Right. I was, listening to music and stuff like that. So, yeah, that got switched out. Then I went a long time and didn't even own a TV, right? So,
did you like what we had on this morning when you came in?
The music?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Guns N' Roses.
Oh, you said that, yeah. Yeah, I like Guns N' Roses. Yeah, so I still listen to a fair amount of music. So I got a pair of headphones that I listen to music on almost every night. Once we turn off the TV, I need sound. I don't need picture. I grew up watching TV when I went. I grew up my bedroom was just on the other side of the wall of the living room, and I could hear the television clearly. So I used to listen to the TV show as I went to sleep. Then my dad got me a clock radio with a 30-minute timer on it. And then I went to sleep listening to pop music on that, 93 KHJ. And then all my life.
See, you were destined to do this.
And Debbie and I we used to leave the TV on all night long, all the time. And so,
like you'd fall asleep with it on?
Yeah.
And wake up?
Yeah, didn't bother me. And wake up, if I woke up in the middle of the night, I'd watch them until I fell back to sleep. And so we stopped doing that like a year ago or something, and because we're both the light, the television's big now. It was one thing when it was a 12-inch, portable television.
Now it's all the light you need in your entire house.
Like when something white comes on the television, like something bright, it's like even if your eyes are closed, your whole you're illuminated, right? So stop doing that. Debbie actually got a holder for her iPad that it's just hard to explain, but it's on a gooseneck. It sits on a heavy platform that's next to the bed, comes up over the side of the bed.
I know you've described that to me before.
You've not seen it?
Well,
it's like this, and it's got a iPad on the end of it, right? And she can position it so she can turn it so I don't see the light at all, because I'm finding that now I prefer to not have any light I can see directly like that in my eyes. Preferably the whole room is dark.
There's got to be a better way to do that. Like I'm not an inventor, but I like to think of myself as an improver. So that thing is like a huge stand right on the ground, and then it comes up.
Just one neck.
But what is it attached to? A base on the ground.
A weighted base.
Is there not a way to like attach it to your neck or something with a harmonica? Think of a harmonica. Holder. Can you put it right and have an extension, arm?
I have a harmonica holder.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think that I think that her sleep is disrupted a lot by watching too much stuff on the blue screens out of these TVs and phones and stuff. So.
I have these lights for reading.
I do too. They go around your neck.
They go around your neck, and they can twist and they hold in place, and that's much better than the glasses
or the book light.
Yeah. But the glasses are the ones on your head, and then you turn and look at somebody, and then you blind them in the face with your lights.
I haven't read a book since I got halfway through the Obama book, and then kind of haven't read anything since. I have those exact lights. That's the only way I'll read, even if it's
his next book is going to be out before you finish this book.
I know. Well, but he's not president anymore, so.
But why? You just bored with it, or what?
I don't know. Just haven't had the I've been having this back problem for so long that I'm starting to forget what was normal.
Can you? I mean, you've told me before, and I don't know how much you want to say, but can you concentrate through a book, or just not interested?
Not at this point. I mean, it's so for those of you that have not heard it since this problem started, right about the time we did our last podcast, I probably pinched a nerve, and so I've had a lot of pain and stuff since then. Believe it or not, ever since March, and so it's June, so that's been hard to deal with, but. I'm feeling better today. That's one of the reasons why we're here.
Okay, take a victory whenever you can get it.
Yeah, I feel good enough to do the podcast. So here's my advice. This is what I told everybody. We had our industry convention a couple of weeks ago, and I had my so I'm using a walker right now to get around. There's a mental image for you guys. And of course, my associates and things that I know in the business, they were there. They're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And, I said, "Well, some back problems." I go, "Here's my advice to you. Die young and stay pretty." That ship has sailed for me, so a shell for me is too late for me, but you still have a chance. So I don't mean that actually, but
that's why you're in broadcasting. No one has to see you.
That's right. I've always said this is a face made for radio. This is as close to radio as I think I'm ever going to get.
Yeah, radio's dying.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's been around longer than almost all the other.
I mean, the technology's not going to die, but
I don't think so.
Who's listening to radio? Who's watching TV?
That's funny because I once I got a vehicle that had an easy access to my music files in my phone, and then when all the talk radio stations in LA just went to the far right because that's where the money was, there's nothing worth listening to on talk radio. I mean, I used to listen to it all the time, right?
Why can't the Democrats make money?
I don't know.
Why can't they make money in this?
It was Rush Limbaugh that kind of started the decline of LA talk radio, and I'm sure there's similar situations. And he was syndicated.
What do you mean the decline in LA talk radio?
Well, I mean, LA talk radio has really changed. I mean, for the couple of talk stations that are on, 3 out of 3 are far right.
Yeah.
Right. And so
you're saying decline because it's been taken over by the right wing.
There's no.
But he was successfully syndicated for many years.
He was, but there was a mix. There used to be a mix. There was a guy on LA radio that was unfortunately named Michael Jackson, and he had that name long before Michael Jackson had it. But he was an English guy, an expat, American citizen, but heavy English accent, very liberal, and there were some few others, and even a current local favorite, Ken and John, have really migrated to the far right of the spectrum in their show. Always kind of were like the common sense voice somewhere in the middle between the far right and the left, whack jobs. But they've gotten pretty vitriolic in the last few years, and so I can't really listen to them either because they're just not. They're not. I mean, they're not. They used to do what we're trying. They used to do what we're kind of trying to do here. Bring that other side out that's not being talked about, but they don't do that anymore.
Well, here's the other thing. This is the way I, view these types of discussions and having conversations. And you and I both know people who are the extreme of this, but if you go into a conversation willing to listen and with the expectation that you have an opportunity to grow by learning something, then you can have a good, decent conversation, and who knows what's going to come out of that.
I think that's why, that for whatever the number, we don't know the exact number, but however many tens of listeners that we have, I think, we've had a lot of input from people that we do know that have heard the show. And, I've heard from them since we were on our hiatus that, hey, we miss it, But I think the reason why it was at all popular in the beginning, even with some people that don't agree with my side of the thing, is just because they're just not used to hearing both sides. And they're not used to hearing anybody that might listen and say, okay, I see your point, maybe come around. I don't know if I've changed your mind about anything, but certainly listening to some of the things you said over the time we were doing the podcast and all the time that we've had a chance to discuss things, I've changed my opinion on a bunch of things, right? And realized that, like an issue like gun control, where theoretically, I would just be straight down the Democratic side. It's all bad. Guns are bad. People that have guns are bad.
Yeah.
Right. But I noticed that, and I think at one time, before I put any thought into it, I think I just assumed that was how I felt. But when I really started to stop down and think about it,
you were ready to buy a gun.
Yeah. Well,
for a different reason.
Now that I understand you can't carry a gun for self-defense without being illegal in California, what's the point?
But that you're right though, and that's if you go into a conversation being open and you say, hey, change my mind,
Right.
Enlighten me, and you're actually willing and open to hear what the other person has to say, then that can be a good situation. You can learn from that.
Politics has just gotten so. I mean, at the time we were off not doing this, I wondered, what if and when we were going to get back to it, and what we would still talk about, what would still seem interesting. Politics has really, I think, just in the short time that we were doing the show, it just got much. I want to say worse, but I don't know if that's the right term.
No, I think you're right. I agree.
So I find myself not nearly as drawn to discussions of it from either side that I was for a while. It's been 2 or 3 presidential cycles that I've been pretty attuned to the situation, and after the ordeal with Trump, and I was thinking back to some of our discussions about Biden and stuff and where we're at now. I just want to make a couple things clear. I never thought Biden was the right guy to be president, but he was. At that moment, he was as good as we were going to get. So he would never be my ideal of who I'd like to see for president for a lot of reasons, his age. But I think his experience in world politics has been helpful and is, important in this time of international danger, right? We are truly on the brink of a through World War III, and don't know what this is going to look like on the other side. I was listening to our last show, and we talked about, well, what is this going to mean to China? So we're watching China, and although they have declined to get directly involved and support Putin or do anything like that, they certainly haven't gone down the road that all the Western countries have. And while everybody's focus is zeroed in on Ukraine, they're tightening up things in Taiwan. And their latest thing is the Strait of Taiwan is no longer international waters. Well, it's been international waters forever.
Right.
So they're going to say, hey, we're going to make the rules in the Strait of Taiwan. So we just inch ever closer to the conflict that's coming.
It's as if it's a new Cold War, or you could totally see that happening.
Yeah, the Cold War with China is going to be bad news.
This is interesting. I want to get into China too, but back to what you were starting to say, framing up the state of politics in the U.S. Yeah. And I find myself in the same situation. It's almost a struggle to tune in because you know what you're going to get. It's the same bullshit. But I think the other thing is it has calmed down a little bit, and we've spent some time talking about this in the sense that every day in the Trump years, and sometimes multiple times a day, you wake up and you're like, what the fuck is happening now? What shit show is going on? Yeah. And with Biden, it's a different kind of, what's going on. Of course, there's chatter about, his cognitive decline, or I sent you something about the Democrats' possible plan B, for 2024 election. But it's not the same type of distraction that we had in the Trump years. In other words, it's government as usual, as we've come to know it, in the last 50 years or so, with the issues of, grandpa, driving the car. But it's not as crazy as it once was.
Now, some institutional norms need to be reestablished. It seems like Trump's sole objective was to crush every institutional norm he could manage to take out during his time. Had he won that election, the damage he would have done in the last, 2 years almost now, hard to even imagine.
Do you support this idea that, because I think this was a quote that, Putin said, but that basically he wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if Trump was in office? Do you subscribe to that?
Did Putin say that?
I read something that reported that he said it, but I didn't hear or read a direct quote from him.
I do not know that he said that, so I've never thought about it. But the question of would he have invaded Ukraine if Trump was still? Maybe he would have bided his time longer, because Trump was well down the road of disassembling the UN for who knows what reason. The stated reasons that the other members of,
because we're paying more and they're not paying their fair share.
So ridiculous, Here's the thing. You have no problem finding $1 billion whenever you wanted to send to the Ukraine or send to Israel or whoever it is. But, everything else is, how do you pay for it, right? There's no discussion of how you're going to pay for it when it's something the right wants. But if it's something the left wants, then it's like, well, how are you going to pay for that? Well, you don't give a fuck how we pay for anything. You just do whatever, and then the only time you care is if it's not your idea. And so,
what do you think about Sweden and Finland joining the UN?
Well, I mean, I wish they were in the UN already. I mean, I think the whole world needs to be united against Putin or Russia at this stage of the game, at least in theory, if not in action. But
don't you think we need to? I like the UN. I don't think we should get rid of it, but we need to update the rules. Because why can Turkey...
The UN or NATO?
Maybe it's NATO. Which one is it?
Well, NATO is the one.
NATO is the one that
in Europe's defense of Europe.
So is it Turkey that has veto power over Finland and Sweden joining?
Well, we'll see. Erdogan is another quasi dictator.
Yeah.
Only reason why we don't bring the hammer down on Erdogan is because and not only did Trump not bring the hammer down on him, he was kowtowing to him like he does for all those guys. But one of our biggest military and most strategic bases is in Turkey, right? And so we really can't afford to lose that strategic advantage, especially in the face of the state of the world right now. Our strategic military defense is dependent on that huge base in Turkey. So I think it's one of those things where I don't know that they're going to have to use other means to persuade Erdogan not to use that veto power. Because I think everybody that matters wants them in. You take Finland. I mean, remember that Russia already invaded Finland once, right? So they already know.
They know, yeah,
how easy you can get fucked over.
Exactly.
And so they have spent the last 20 years beefing up their border. So that's not a surprise. So they're like, well, we're all in. We've already spent all the money. If he was ever to try to invade us again, it would be the most prolonged war in the world because we're ready to go. We're never letting these assholes back in here. But that wouldn't stop him because he doesn't care how many Soviet troops he kills. He doesn't care how many innocent civilians he kills because he doesn't give a shit, right? He's a megalomaniac. I mean, what do you think about the theories that he's got some kind of terminal illness?
I read that too, but we went down that rabbit hole with little Fatty in Korea. Remember? And he was like on death's door and no one had seen him. And
well, he had a tapeworm, I think.
Well, he gained a lot of weight and he looked really pudgy and, more so than usual, and his coloring was bad. And then he was gone and then he resurfaced. And then there was...
He had weight loss surgery.
Is that what it was?
For his head.
I don't know.
Oh, my God. Speaking of weight loss surgery, I'd like to shout out to a relative I have that is going through a life-changing experience as we speak. And I want to wish you all the luck in the world. He's a listener. And so he's in recovery right now, so he's doing good.
Having actual weight loss surgery?
He did.
Okay, so no time to insert joke.
No, I mean, it's a huge decision for him.
Did he already do it?
Yeah, Friday. So he's recovering now. But here's the thing, right?
Is that what do they do? They like pinch off your stomach
band or something?
Yeah, they put a band around it.
I've never had it, and I've always had trouble with weight one way or the other. One good thing is I've lost like 35 pounds.
Yeah, you look good.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll tell you a funny story.
Your skin looks good too. You look youthful.
Yeah, some people have said that. It's weird. Usually when you lose weight, you look older.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know why that would be. My face was getting pretty fat.
Especially with females, like really, really skinny females, it can age you a lot.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, I'm happy for whatever improvement in my looks this has brought. It's not the way I recommend losing weight.
Your hair's coming back.
It's not coming back. It hasn't really left, but it is on vacation in some spots on my head. But what the hell was I going to say?
Your friend had the surgery, the lap band.
Oh, here's a funny weight loss story. So I have a doctor's scale, the kind where it's got the weights that you slide across the top.
Yeah.
I bought it from a medical supply.
How could that possibly be accurate?
It's far more accurate. I've had all the floor
Then
scales.
Then the digital scales?
Digital scales are farce. There's no way to calibrate them. I don't.
Are they not calibrated when they're built?
I never had two digital scales that read the same twice. Right?
How do you calibrate a doctor's scale?
You don't calibrate. It's just you put all the weights on zero,
Yeah.
and then the thing is in the middle, and
Yeah, I
it's
know.
calibrated.
But how do you know the weights actually weigh what they say?
How do you know the sky is blue? You look up and it's blue.
You just take their word for it.
Very philosophical. So anyway, I'm getting on. So one of the falls I've taken during this problem with my back and my knees, I took trying to get on this scale. So I go in there. I think it was probably Friday or something afternoon, and I was just wearing a pair of shorts, and so I had the minimal amount of clothes on. That's the way I like to weigh. Not completely naked because in case
Yeah, you're like a fighter in a cage match.
Yeah, in case of emergency, I don't want to be in the garage naked. So anyway,
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I went in there to get my weight. So I brought my walker in with me and put that over to my left and carefully step up on the scale, because stepping up a curve or stepping down a curve, that's when my knee.
Those things are usually a little higher than your typical digital bathroom scale.
Yeah, and it's all, it's anything. Just the difference between one doorway and the floor on the other side of it can trip me up. So very carefully getting on it. So I'm holding it with my right hand. I'm holding part of the scale, and I move the weights over to 230, which is what my weight was the last time I weighed. And then I get on it, and I'm looking at it, and it's saying, hey, too heavy, right? It's like, okay, well, 230. Oh, good, I've lost some weight. So I start moving the one weight over, right? Okay, 228. No, still too heavy. 225, still too heavy. Wow, 223. What the fuck's going on? I'm all the way down to 218. And I'm like, oh, my God, how much? I've lost like 12 pounds in a week. And then I'm like, I must have cancer or something. And so then I realized that my left hand is still on the walker. So I let go, and the thing goes boom right.
That's why when you actually go to the doctor, they don't let you move the weights by yourself.
Well, they don't have.
They don't trust you.
They all have digital scales.
See?
Yeah, those scales don't exist anymore. But that's why I spent $150 to buy this scale from a medical supply.
How long ago?
It's been 10 years, probably a long time ago, because I had scales and I had a bunch of different floor scales and shit, and they just didn't work.
Does it really matter though if most the same scale?
Most of the scales would scream out, "Get the fuck off me!" Right? That's how heavy I was.
But doesn't it really just matter if it's reading consistently? If your scale, the one you're always on, if it tells you if you're up or down, isn't that all that matters?
But even sometimes I couldn't, because those scales, those floor scales, all have adjusters on them, right? And a lot of them aren't digital. A lot of them were just mechanical, right? You got a little. Spin.
Like the old grocery store scales where you put the apples in and it's got,
Well, that's more like the one I have now than that. So anyway, I just give up on all those. I want a scale that I can be trust is accurate. So
they got ones now that connect to your phone.
Yeah.
Like Bluetooth.
Again,
they got the weight loss apps and the health apps. I
have an inherent mistrust.
But I'm surprised by that, because usually you embrace technology. You like new things.
I do. But I've had a lot of experience with scales. I mean, it's always been a part of the work we do and weighing things and stuff like that. And I've seen digital scales and mechanical scales and see how they work and what their shortcomings are. I mean, we used to use something called the Detecto brand scale. It was a hanging
I remember those
scale. But they were so inaccurate, we used to call it Defecto.
Yeah, because the needles would pop off and you'd put a paper clip on there.
Yeah, note to lawyer, don't sue me. I think Defecto's out of business. Detecto. Yeah, well, half the time we're using a paperclip taped onto the thing because the needle was broke off.
Right.
They had no face on them. Anyway, that's a little off track, but weight loss. So anyway, good luck to my relative out there. We've been in our thoughts. So. What
about you? Are you now motivated by this newfound weight loss? Is there a way to keep that going without your current status? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think that I'm in a different time in my life. Just a little bit of history here that you guys probably don't want. So before this health issue ensued with my back in March, I was at about 268. I've been going to the doctor. I've been weighing and stuff in the doctor's office. I wasn't really doing anything special to try to lose weight. So as I've been trying to deal with this back problem and some other issues, my doctor said, hey, your sugar's way too high. You're heading for problems. And some of this problem that I'm having may be related to high blood sugar. I'm having some. Do you have diabetes?
Yeah.
Diagnosed with diabetes?
Some of this appears to be diabetic neuropathy. My skin, my leg skin, the skin on my legs, my thighs and calves is just on fire about half the time. So that's either inflammation. It could be coming from this pinched nerve. It could be diabetic neuropathy. Not getting a clear diagnosis on that. We'll see. If it gets better, when this problem gets better, we'll know what it was from. And then, so I did start about in March to try to work on the overall blood sugar level. So I think at that point, my A1C, which anybody that knows anything about diabetes will know what that is. That's the measurement you do at a blood test of your 3-month average sugar. That'll tell you what your average sugar is all the time. Just pricking your finger tells you what it is at that moment. That's a moment in time. A1C is your 3-month average. So it was 11, which is
that bad?
Right after 11 on that scale comes you're dying in your sleep. So
what should it be?
It should be under 7. So that was very high.
That's not a huge range. If it's 7 or under is okay, but by 11 you're dead?
Well, no,
There's not a lot of wiggle room there.
You're not dead at 11, but you're heading for diabetic neuropathy. You're heading for blindness. You're heading for losing your toes or your feet. So you got to get that corrected. So I went to the doctor then 2 months after that. So March, April. So end of April, 1st of May, I went and saw my regular doctor again. Follow up for the diabetes thing, follow up for the back problem. But he's not really treating the back problem. There are other doctors for that. So anyway, my A1C went from 11 to 8. So that was a 2-month concerted effort. So there's a whole month still in that measurement where I wasn't doing shit. So I'm going to go back again pretty soon. We're going to let 4 months lapse from that appointment. So we'll go back, and I'm hoping that my A1C will be under 7 at that point. Because so that part of that is, thinking about what you're eating, and and then the other thing that's helped the weight loss is I have been nauseous a lot of the time. Some of that is, well, I know this. I'm glad to bring some joy into your life, but I know the way I say it is funny. But upset stomach, taking a lot of ibuprofen and acetaminophen for inflammation of that nerve and for pain, and that tends to make you not feel that good. So I've had some problems with that. So often over the last 3 months when I go to eat, I'm just not very hungry. I mean,
that'll do it.
I took 12 hours almost to cook a brisket yesterday. I had 3 pieces. Right. Typically, I would have ate half the brisket.
All right.
Especially if I spent that much time on it. So that's fine. That's great. I think my eating habits are changing. Right. And so
when you get to a certain point, like I know a lot of old people that they just start eating ice cream. That's like their only diet is ice cream.
I can totally see that. I was going to say that if you go back 15 years ago, back to 2001, my weight had gone up to 327.
Damn.
So I've been down around 260 to 270 for quite a long time. So the difference between 327 and 270 is substantial. I consider that permanent weight loss. That was really scary and dangerous, right? But 270 is way too heavy. And so the other thing the doctor said was, hey, if you lose weight, it's going to help this back.
Yeah, of course. And your blood sugar.
Yeah, and every 10 pounds you lose has a huge impact on your diabetes.
So what are you at now? What did you say?
230.
Okay.
So I think when I got married in 92, it was 232. And so I'm feeling good. I want to get down to about 220 and see. I don't care much after that. I'm not trying.
Yeah, that's a good target for you.
I'm not trying to model or something,
If you end up losing some of your toes or a foot, what do you have to do to the scale? How do you calibrate that? Because that's not fair if you're lighter because you've lost some limbs.
Hey, if they're gone, they're gone. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to make this all about my health problems, but
you've given us several podcast titles because of your health problems.
Yeah, I know. It's been a journey. I mean, I started trying to figure out some of this stuff, about the time we started the podcast. So you guys have got here's the other news flash for the listeners. For all of our discussions about COVID, right? During the time we were on hiatus, I had COVID twice. So it looks like I went through the whole first 2 years. I got all the vaccinations and everything's good. I never got it. Then I got it at the end of April, and then I got it in the beginning of May again.
I was surprised when you told me that. Yeah. That I had to ask you: were you a COVID virgin before that?
Yeah, I was. I know you had it, but I had never had it. And when I got it the first run at the end of April, I immediately got a hold of my doctor, and within a day, I had a prescription for Paxlovid, which is one of the antiviral treatments. So between that and having the vaccinations, it was a very minor, the symptoms were minor. No problem breathing, just temperature and feel like shit, body aches and stuff like that. Symptoms gone in about 4 days, 4 terrible days, but not terrible. And then the second time, I didn't bother. I called the doctor. I said, hey, I went through the Paxlovid last time. I didn't get very sick. He goes, well, this is probably Omicron. Nobody escapes the Omicron.
Yeah.
So
that's why the world was forced to go back to normal. No masks, no.
Yeah, but here's the
distancing,
thing, right?
because we all have it, just like we've been saying.
There's some people that I talked to through, about COVID. They're like, well, see, the vaccines don't work. Well, that's not true. Had I gotten COVID without the vaccines, I probably would have died, right? I probably would have been in the hospital on a respirator, intubated, and dead now. But that never happened, and I totally think that's because of the vaccines. How much effect Paxlovid had? That's a pretty effective. It's about an 80% effective with the Paxlovid. So that was good. I had access to it. It didn't cost me anything. But I'm hoping not to get it again. But,
you will.
But it's like the flu. When you have the vaccine. So, I mean, that's where this is down to. But still, there are people that never got the vaccination are still not vaccinated. They're at a very high risk, right? And the people that are actually
we need to thin the herd. That's what I've always said.
I know. Back to the old discussion.
Some things never change.
COVID is boring, so that's what I'm going to say. We're all bored to
exactly, which is why it's time to just fucking move on. And for the most part, we have.
Yeah.
But I was recently in South Africa again, and when I was there, all the talk was, South Africa's experiencing the fifth wave, and it's the new hotspot in the world. In fact, right before I left to go there, and I don't even understand how this works. We talk about it too, but the federal mask mandate for airplanes and TSA and all that shit was challenged by some federal judge.
It's gone now.
It's gone now. But we talked about this in the Trump years too, where he would do something and then some obscure judge you've never heard of cancels it. It's like, I don't even understand how this country works anymore.
Well, it's going the other way now, right? There's so many Trump judges in there that things that, Democrats put into effect. Sometimes.
Like the mask mandate, which was great. And then you have these rogue places like L.A. County said, like literally it went away. And then L.A. County the next day said, fuck that, we're going to impose these masks. So I went to the airport that day, LAX, and didn't wear a mask. And nobody else had a mask. And nobody gave a shit. And TSA didn't enforce it. Security didn't enforce it. The airline workers didn't enforce it. I flew all the way to South Africa with no mask. Now, when I was there, I flew around a bunch in country, and on their airlines, you had to wear a mask.
Public transportation.
And they're militant about it, and that's the whole thing. Yeah. But it's like, just move on. We know you guys are, several months behind us, but the rest of the world, we've kind of moved on.
Well, that's good you didn't get it there.
No, but then what was happening is the whole monkeypox thing came up. So when I came back, it's like, oh, fuck, did you bring back monkeypox?
Right. That was right when you came back. I remember. Yeah, so that's a scary thing. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere here.
Yeah, but that's how do you get that through sex, right? Or that's what they're saying. This is being transmitted.
Sex with monkeys?
I don't know. You said it, my friend. No, I don't know.
Well, then I'm safe.
Are you sure?
No need to vaccinate. Yeah, pretty sure. Pretty sure. Yeah. So God, it's just one thing after another. So anyway, that's the world as I know it.
You know what's interesting? You know a lot about health, about diet, about eating, but
I'm dying before your very eyes.
As you've stated, for the longest time, you've been a heavy guy.
Yeah.
And so,
well,
what am I saying here?
Well, weight problems are almost always psychological. So, I mean,
addiction type issues?
Sort of. I mean, you see the same kind of tendencies that lead to weight gain and inability to lose weight and stuff. There's just a whole lot. It's just a very involved process. It's hard to get your head around. I mean, this is the kind of weight loss.
Isn't it just calorie deficit? I mean, shit, you've given me a thesis on ketosis and all kinds of other shit.
I mean, listen, it's less food. I mean, here I'm proving it out, right, for myself.
Yeah.
Less food in, less.
What about heavy weight training or any kind of weight training?
I mean, I'm not even really convinced that exercise. Can you lose weight through exercise? The ratio is really tough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, if you're burning more calories, you can eat more without weight gain.
I think that's technically true as far as diet.
But I mean, it's just eat less, right? And a lot of people say, "Oh, what have you done recently to lose weight?" I haven't done anything except try to eat. Try to watch my sugar intake, and because by the time I get to the evening, I'm not hungry because my stomach's upset, and then. I'm not staying up much because I'm not feeling well so much of the time. I'm in bed.
So you're almost
at 7:30.
You're kind of basically doing intermittent fasting, where you might be going 14, 15 plus hours in between meals, right?
Well, I mean, I could go from 6 o'clock to 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning. What I have started to do, and this is the other thing that I've been treated for, is I've always had the thing with the whole diabetes started when we found out I had high fasting blood sugar in the morning. I don't eat anything from whatever snack I had late at night, but that's still hours. Even if I'm eating at 10 o'clock or something at night, that's still 8 hours or something until I'm eating it. None of that food is still in your body. The sugar should be gone. So that wouldn't cause high morning. So
what do you mean none of the food's in your body? Well, what about the duty?
Well, yeah, you might have to crap, but you're not.
How long does it take you to get rid of the meal that you like. I think the meal that I eat now, it's going to be gone in like 2 hours.
Not gone. It'll be out of your stomach, but it's going to take longer than that to get. You couldn't drive a truck through your intestines in 2 hours.
No, mine you can't.
I don't know.
Is it bad that I have this cooking show on today?
No. Which I'm wondering, where's CNBC?
I'm mixing it up for you. This
Good.
guy's good.
Yeah, he's got induction cooking on the beach. That's very progressive. You ever used one of those induction cooking?
Yeah.
You got the pan with a special bottom.
Yeah,
all that.
Yeah, we're all going to be using those because we're not going to be allowed to use natural gas anymore.
Right. That's L.A. County now.
Well, no, isn't it all of California new construction?
Maybe. I only hear about it in L.A.
You
County.
have gas, right?
I have gas.
I mean, how can you cook?
Here's what I'm going to tell you about that. You're going to take that gas out of my cold, dead hands. Oh,
right.
Wait, that's my gun. That's right. That's the gun I don't have.
In the 70s, wasn't like electric ranges all the thing, and that was going to be the future.
Electricity is the future until it's not.
Yeah, but cooking, electric cooking.
How much petroleum do you have to generate to make the electricity?
Is it really that cooking on gas stoves? Really, that's what's killing the planet?
I don't know.
I
think it's leaf blowing with gas engines.
I'll be happy when those are gone. I got to tell you.
Really?
Those things.
Well, they used to drive you crazy when you were doing this from your house.
Oh my God, they make me fucking mental. And where I live in a typical, overpriced neighborhood, and everybody has gardeners on different days. So 5-6 fucking days a week, these guys are in there blowing, and they're just. Well, they're lazy fuckers too.
I remember
get a broom.
The blowing and suckage in your neighborhood was beyond the norm.
That's right.
I have had many different electric leaf blowers, right? And then my nephew, who worked at Sears for a couple of years, he bought and brought home a gas-powered leaf blower, which I fell in love with. And then when he left and no longer needed it, I either bought it off him or I had him get me a new one or something. And I used it till it crapped out. But the difference between an electric leaf blower and gas-powered was
one works and one doesn't.
It was like driving a 4-cylinder Pinto and a new-gen Camaro. It's like, okay, I can blow anything out of my path with this gas blower, and I can't do shit with the electric.
Which is, if you have that, you're gonna find shit to blow with it. Yeah. It's like,
well, the yard was clean. That's
exactly.
But new electric leaf blowers are a lot stronger. They're 18 volt. They got a different battery. They got a better motor.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have blackouts here. We lose the electricity. It's a fortune to charge the goddamn batteries.
I'm going to get rid of all my gas powered lawns. Not that I use any of it anymore. I've already gotten rid of it all. But you'd be out there, with your new electric leaf blower, but here's the thing: it'll be battery powered. So you just charged up the battery. You're not going to be. That was the thing. The electric ones didn't have batteries. They just were all
they plugged in.
200-foot cord around with me in my half-acre lot. Right?
We were progressive when I was a kid. However old you are when you first get tasked to start mowing the lawn, it was probably 9 or 10.
Right.
And we had an electric lawnmower that plugged in.
Electric.
Yeah.
Wow. How woke was your parents?
I know, right? And they're completely the opposite of that now. So I'm like, I don't understand what that was about. If it was a hand-me-down or something. Right. And of course, the extension cord had like marks in it from when it was run over a few times and taped up.
I had electric with where you had to use a cord weed whacker. Right. Now, if you really want something, get a gas-powered weed whacker.
Oh yeah.
You can cut down a fucking tree with a that plastic line if you got a gas-powered. So I bought all that stuff. It's all. And then
you cut the strings a little too long just to make sure that you can really get those fucking weeds.
That string shit was just a pain in the ass. Those things were amazing devices, but I spent more time trying to reload the spool than cutting any goddamn weeds down with it, right? And I see things on TikTok or Instagram where videos of guys trimming lawns. I had an edger.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My dad used to have edgers, so I used
the metal ones that sparked everywhere.
Yeah. You got a blade that goes right next to the curb, and then I see guys freehand these weed whackers and edge a lawn.
Yeah.
I tried that with a great big divot in the side. Of the grass.
Right? Yeah, you could never get it straight. It was all in zigzag.
Or the line hits the cement and breaks off. So that was a good old. My gardener is charging me a freaking arm and a leg now. He just raised the price $40, 10%.
Well, he's a Trump guy, right?
Well, he is a Trump guy.
He's a capitalist.
One issue voter. Right?
Yeah, he's trying to become a millionaire.
He's a Catholic, so it's a one issue voter. It's abortion for him. So I haven't talked to him recently, but
you gonna fire him?
No, he's a good guy. He does a great job. I mean, I pay through the.
Does he use gas-powered shit?
He does.
What's he going to do when he loses it?
I don't
Isn't
know.
that coming
It's
like in
Orange
2 years or something?
It's Orange County. I don't
So?
know. I don't know.
I thought that's a statewide ban.
He'll get electric.
It's going to be so nice.
Well, he'll charge me for it.
Like I'm in favor of things that benefit me. Like I want the gardeners to lose gas-powered tools, but I still want to be able to use a gas range. I want to be able to drive gas vehicles. I want to be able to fly on airplanes.
Well, that's why I'm happy using my Traeger. I don't see anybody coming for my wood pellets. I don't see that in the.
You might be forced to not burn actual wood pellets because of the fucking drought here.
Because of the drought. How's that?
It's a fire hazard.
I don't think
There could be embers.
There's no embers coming out of my machine.
There could be.
There's smoke coming out of my machine.
There could be.
Have you used it recently?
Yeah, what did I do? I did a pork shoulder.
Okay.
And some chicken, and then we did a tri-tip.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, tri-tips come out. They're idiot proof, so.
But again, I was just in South Africa, so the way they do, they're so like militant about how they do. It's a big meat country, and their version of a barbecue is called a braai, but everything has to be on real wood.
Goats and giraffes, or what are they doing?
I haven't ever had a giraffe. I've had springbok. I've had ostrich.
Oh, that's goat. Springbok. They got hooves, right?
They have hooves, and horns.
Yeah, it's a goat.
Yeah.
And no marsupials there, though. They're all gone.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Armadillo?
I don't know if I've seen an armadillo. How do you cook an armadillo?
Carefully.
Is an armadillo like a lobster?
Pretty much.
There's probably not a lot in there to eat.
That outside skeleton. Anything that wears their skeleton on the outside is alien to me. It comes from another planet.
Could you eat a porcupine? Obviously, if you plucked its spines.
I don't want to eat any of that shit.
Would you ever eat, in a survival situation, would you eat anything to survive? Or with this newfound dietary, mental strength that you have, you'd just be able to survive?
I'd like to clear something up.
Yeah.
I am in no way trying to tell anybody out there that I have lost weight due to control or willpower or discipline. I have been sick to my stomach for 4 months.
I understand.
Right. And so, I'm not taking any credit for this. I am loving it. Right. I'd love to. It's great to lose weight, and it's it feels great. And I'm hoping that I can keep, get past this and then maintain a reasonable weight, somewhere around 220. But please don't anybody think that I'm here to tell you what a great job I've done.
How often are you weighing yourself?
Typically once a week, right? And it can go up a couple pounds. It depends what's going on. But like we had our convention thing, right? There were 2 big dinners, and there was a lot of weird eating, during that week. And then it came out, didn't gain anything. So, but I didn't eat that much either. Like at that, the last night was a buffet thing, which, by the way, the waiters did my plate for me. That was nice of them. That was nice. And that happened at lunch too. The waiter, I tried to get there.
See, that's kind of a cool benefit. I'm not saying that you're milking this, but
a lot of people, this walker thing is a lot of people open doors for you and stuff like that. So even you came running out to the door of the studio today.
Well, and you said something to me I didn't even know, that we have a handicap access, right, which I didn't even realize.
Well, here was the plan, because I was trying to remember, and I didn't really remember the handicap thing, but because getting upstairs with a walker is tough, and the biggest problem I'm having is my back doesn't hurt that much. We think that's the root of all this problems, but my knees are buckling out from under me, so I can fall real easily. And it's spread to both legs. Before it was just my right leg, so now both legs. And so things change. The pinching may be, the disc may be moving around a little bit. So when there's two sets of steps that lead up to this front door. One of them is like 5 steps. One of them is 3.
I never noticed. I just hop over all of them.
Right. You just. You guys can't see Travis, but he's 7'12", and that makes him 13 foot. But he takes very large steps. But yeah, so here was my plan. I think one of those is only 3, so I would walk up, and it's got rails. So if it's got a rail, that's a different story. So I was going to just, kind of throw my walker up at the top of the stair.
You were going to throw it?
Well, just grab it by one hand and put it up there, right? And then that would be up there, and then I could grab onto the rail and go up one step at a time and support myself. I can do that. It's not pretty, but I could do it. And but I wasn't looking forward to doing it because that's a good way for me to fall down. But then when I got here, I'm like, okay, well, there's the handicap thing. I don't have a handicap plaque unless with Debbie's mom.
Yeah, how come you don't have one?
Well, because I haven't asked my doctor for one. I'm sure I could get one at this stage.
Why don't you?
I probably will.
And nobody will challenge you, even if once you're off the walker, because you've always kind of had this like, almost like, how would I describe it? Like a drunken pirate. You have that little bit of a 45-degree angle step.
Yeah, I do.
But it's cool, like a Jack Sparrow kind of thing.
Yeah, the myriad of health problems that I'm dealing with over the years. So this whole problem. So I have something called, I don't know if this is the right term. My ankles splay out to the outside, so both my feet I want to walk on the outside edge of both feet, and I do. And my right foot is very tilted over to the right. So, when you're a kid, you do that on purpose. You walk on the outside of your feet. Not the inside. That's almost impossible to do, but on the outside. Because we're flexible and the ligaments down there and the bones are pliable and you can do
nothing pops or makes a weird sound.
Yeah. So now my foot, over the years, it's just gotten worse and worse. My right leg is really bowed out to the outside. And so that does not help the situation. It probably accounts for that weird 45.
Imagine this was like in the 1800s and you had to ride around on a horse. Like, you'd be fucked.
Oh yeah, I need a more a horse with better shocks. Oh my God! So
let's get back to this China thing.
Okay, China.
Yeah, so we were kind of dancing around the idea, or what China's involvement and lack of comments about Russia and Ukraine and what they're really doing in Taiwan and all this stuff.
They're moving on Taiwan.
They're moving on everywhere.
Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong.
Do you think, because this is kind of what we're seeing now, the new kind of big storyline is maybe a change in things in the economy. We've had this massive inflation. We've seen places like here in the U.S. where the Fed has raised interest rates. China, for its part, over the last 10 plus years has been loaning countries money, like in Africa, this Belt and Road Initiative. They're trying to build infrastructure, airports, all this stuff so that they have reliance on China.
It's influence, right?
It's influence, exactly. But what's going to happen now with changing economic times where China might not have the money to lend? There's already several of these countries that are going to default on some of these loans. Is that going to change things for China where they might not be able to be so brazen, if you will?
I think that whatever money they've put out has been for their own, personal purposes.
Absolutely.
For the influence. And I don't think they care that much about getting the money back, right? Because it's money. It's not really, it's just a way to create influence, right? So I don't think they're going to worry about that. We're going to lose. I mean, we're not going to get all the money back from countries that we've loaned out. Countries are going to default and things are going to go on. As long as we don't default, because even if we did, right, like one of these stupid things where they don't fund the government or something, it still goes on, right? Just goes on.
Yeah, because we're America, baby.
I thought it was we're America, bitch.
But you don't think, though, that – so in other words, China is lending money that it can afford to lose.
Lending or spending.
But think about this. Where does China get their money? They're an exporter, right? They manufacture all of the world's goods, and they need buyers.
Yeah.
So their own, COVID strategy, zero COVID, locking down the ports, that, of course, has created gridlock all over the world.
Right.
And they're not moving anything. They're not selling anything. Therefore, their income has been reduced.
And I wonder if they incidentally came to the awareness that they can fuck up the entire world just by screwing up that chain. Supply chain.
They absolutely can. I don't think they just realize it. They've known this.
What has more influence or possible, ramifications down the road? A tactical nuclear strike somewhere that garners you worldwide, disgust or whatever,
and or retaliation,
or pulling the choke chain on the supply lane and saying, well, it's not our fault.
I think you're right. Exactly.
So, I mean, when they want to fuck you over, they have multiple ways to do it. Now, it's in their best interest if everybody plays nicely, right? They make more money. They can They can have more money to create influence. I mean, they're going to own Africa.
But
right?
therein lies the problem. You're right. When everybody plays nicely, and what China wants by playing nicely is to be able to abstain from the conflict in Russia. But on the other hand, if they get, drawn into it, or other countries become aggressive, or the United States takes action against Taiwan or whatever.
Hong Kong.
Yes.
Right. With Taiwan, I think.
Didn't Biden say something about Taiwan? He's had a couple of gaffes, big ones lately that he's had to walk back. But I thought he said something about Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember, but I remember Trump,
which I love, by the way.
Trump took a call from the Taiwanese president when he first got elected, which just because that was a diplomatic faux pas, no U.S. presidents were doing that. I mean, we maintain our support for them, but in order not to anger China, we weren't having official diplomatic relations with the Taiwanese government. And that's the first
Which is dumb.
I agree. Which is the first thing Trump did. Just, hey, here's a norm I can crush. I'm going to, hey, fuck, bomb or whatever.
The first thing he did was a travel ban on Muslims. Let's look at our story right.
First thing he did was he got rid of an executive order that was limiting the sale of guns to people. That's the very first thing he did. And that was like on the first
We should
day.
look that up. There's probably a good 10 or so things that happened
He did.
immediately.
Yeah. So I don't know.
He took this phone call and officially kind of broke the silence of recognizing diplomatic relations with Taiwan. But didn't Biden recently say something like we would defend Taiwan if there was an invasion by China?
I think he has. I mean, he'll say things in plain speak sometimes that other presidents or political leaders, State Department isn't behind, because he's sort of shooting from the hip. And that's one of the things that people have always worried about with him. But he said it. Life goes on.
Well, and this is the thing. And by the way, if you ever finish Obama's book, he comments about himself. He says, I always had a very deliberate and slow pace at speaking, even when I wasn't reading speeches. And he said that was on purpose because it allowed me to be very precise in choice of my words and be very deliberate. And as a result, I didn't have a lot of gaffes.
Right.
And he wasn't saying, he said others do, and he wasn't saying Biden. He was referring to other people. But here's the thing about Biden, for all the criticisms and the people who are vocal against him, myself included, the one benefit of him being old as fuck and senile is that he says shit unfiltered like your grandpa.
Right.
Because it just comes out. So the White House has had to walk back a lot of these comments, but I think, no, say it like it is, dude.
I think it played a significant role in shortening Jen Psaki's tenure as White House news person.
What do you think of the new one? I haven't even seen. Is it her?
Jean Marie something or other. She's MSNBC. She was a significant MSNBC contributor. Then when Biden won, she went on left in MSNBC as on-air contributor.
And didn't Psaki go to MSNBC?
She's gone from the White House now.
Yeah.
I don't think she's gone. I think there's some kind of contract or something, but we'll have to see how that plays out.
Is the new one giving us anything interesting, like circling back
Jean-Marie?
Or anything good?
Nah, she's the first openly gay woman of color to ever hold that position. So there's that. That's a typical, Democratic kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jen Psaki had her own style going on, right? Came in with such a glaring contrast to the dumb robot blonde they had in there.
No, dumb robot blonde. McEnany. Mac is something.
Yeah.
But come on, the all-time greatest
Sarah
was Stroke Face.
Yep, Stroke Face. That was one of our first early nicknames we gave somebody. Stroke Face.
You gave it to her.
Did I?
I thought she was great.
I'd like to apologize to everyone.
You don't have to apologize.
I'll probably have Stroke Face before too long.
When are we going to move past the apologizing and the offending and the sensitivity?
I'm over it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you are.
Yeah. I was thinking about it on the way here. I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to end up apologizing for.
Don't apologize. Listen, this is a comedy show, my friend.
Yeah.
We're slow on the jokes today.
That is really where we need to go.
Yes.
Comedy. Well, I mean, I was listening to our last podcast on the way here, like I said. And I only got about a third of the way through before I got here. I was surprised how quickly I got here. And I took the wrong turn.
That's because you're not using your brake pedal because it's too hard to get it move your foot.
I'm not braking for this off ramp because, yeah. So, I did actually miss the 5. I got on the 55, at Catella or whatever that is, and then I missed the 5. So I had to drive all the way down to the 405.
Oh, Jesus.
Come down through the Y, but it was really quick. So you saw what time I got here.
Yeah, it was early.
20
I was
minutes.
planning on helping you through the door.
Appreciate
and I was rocking out, like I said, and I didn't hear you. I was trying to, get you all hyped up.
So what were you doing while you were rocking out? Were you working out, exercising, or
Yeah, I was swinging some kettlebells.
Okay, good.
I was putting up really, for me, heavy kettlebells yesterday too, but now I'm sore.
So your family's gone, huh?
Yeah,
Out of town?
They're gone.
Okay, wow.
I think they're coming back.
Are they coming back? Kids are out of school, huh?
Yeah, summertime. But that's the thing is, as a parent, you miss the routine.
Yeah.
Because, you send them to school and then, there's other kids, tire them out and, their brain is working and they're using a pencil and all that.
Well, that just means Megan's tired, not you.
Yeah. Well, no, it was same for me because then their sleep schedule is all off. And
Right, but they're not here.
They're not here this week.
So that's affecting Megan, not you.
Yeah, this week it's affecting her.
I mean, them not being tired out is nothing for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good for me.
Well, I spent a little time with Travis's kids a week or two ago at the convention, and they're absolutely fantastic. They're beautiful. They're smart, but they are nonstop. Right. And then I spent 4 or 5 hours with my nephew yesterday, and I don't think he ever stopped talking. And that's fine because whenever he talks, I'm smiling. I don't care what
he's a
saying.
future podcast host,
I guess, and killer, I guess, as he was playing this video game where, in these video games, you're going to have to kill the boss. That's typically the way, especially on a lot of the...
Who's the boss?
Well, they have different bosses, right? So you got monsters. There's a bunch of different monsters in this game we were playing. And so him and his father were playing tandem. They each had their own controller. They were playing on my big screen TV. And they're playing as a team. They're not playing against each other. They're playing as a team. And so they're trying to kill the boss. So you get into a thing where you're up against the boss. You've gone through all the levels. You're up against the boss, the real big boss. And you got to just fight it until you wear them out. You see a little progress bar down at the bottom that's going down, down, down. So Connor gets down there. It's like a tenth of the progress bar left. And he's just going, kill, 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 kill.
Now, if he were to drop like a motherfucker or something in there, would you say something to him?
He was talking very rapidly, and he said that wasn't the only thing he said. That was just something he was chanting at this one part to kind of keep it going. And there was another thing where he was saying something. What I was hearing was,
"Die, you mother effer."
Say motherfucker or something like that.
He said that?
No, but that's what I heard. That's what I thought, and he was repeating it. But he was saying the name of one of these bosses, and it kind of sounded like that when you ran it all together and kind of slurred it together. And I'm listening, I look over at his mom, and I'm like, is he saying kill the motherfucker, or what is he saying? She's no, kill in the name of the thing. I go, oh, it just sounds like that. So, I mean, because the video game's loud.
If the bad guy, if the boss resembled, say, a Putin, would it be okay if he said, die, motherfucker?
It would be okay with me, but I don't think his parents are ever going to be okay with that.
That's one of those things. I could give a shit about that. It's just words. Come on. They're going to hear it.
They don't cuss much, the parents, so I don't anticipate. And
they say that's a sign of intelligence if you use curse words.
Well, then I must be a fucking genius.
You are a fucking genius.
So, I got in so much trouble when I was in elementary school, right? And I don't know, a couple times I got, my parents had to have meetings with the vice principal. The principal was not dealing with this, right? So anything that had to do with foul language came into the vice principal. So it was a woman, and she was okay, not too scary, but a little scary. And so after about like the third time, she's like, listen, he's going to be expelled if this keeps happening. So my dad came and had a talk with me, and he's like, listen, I get it. I get it. You hear it a lot. I mean, my dad used to walk around the house going, damn, Sam, shit on a stick, whatever. He didn't use the F word much, but he said everything else. And it was just par for the course. And so I heard it a lot. And so I used it, right, in school. And you say it to the wrong person, so he tattles on you. You're up shit.
That's what it is.
Right. And so he told me, he goes, listen, I don't care the rest of the time, but when you're in school, you just need to be smarter. Otherwise, you're gonna get expelled.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Right? And so once I heard that, it made me want to try, because he kind of
get expelled.
No, try to not get expelled.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And he gave me the way to do it. He goes, listen, I don't give a shit about this, right? So I don't, it's like, hey, you don't do it to rebel because I don't care. But, the person you're going to fuck over is yourself. You're going to get expelled, and then that's going to be bad. You're going to go to special school or something, right? So they're going to give you a tattoo and put you in with the hardcore kids, right?
My kids, my daughter in particular, she's obsessed with learning about my childhood. They want to know what movies I watched, what music I listened to. They ask me to tell them stories about when I was bad and when I got in trouble.
Wow.
And so I told them this story. I must have been, first, second, third grade, somewhere in there. And they, when I just said cuss words. And I vividly remember I was on the playground and I ran up to these two girls and I said something that made absolutely no sense, but it was a way for me to use swear words.
Okay.
And I went up to them, and without saying anything, I got very close, and I said, if you want to be a bitch, you have to be a shit.
Nice.
So
well thought out.
Well thought out.
Well played.
And obviously, I probably was just being exposed to those kinds of words because I didn't put it in a really cool sentence. And then they went and told on me.
Yeah.
And then I went to the principal's office, and then I remember, and my wife doesn't believe me, the principal, I'm in the desk, takes out the paddle and beats it on the desk, and doesn't beat me with it, but slams it on the desk and tells me if I ever do that again, the next time I'm going to use this on you.
Wow.
And they called my dad, and he came and picked me up, and then when I got home, I got my mouth washed out with soap.
Ooh,
with
yuck.
the bar, so like really digging into your teeth.
Man.
And so, and my daughter, she wants me to tell that. What did you say again, Dad?
Oh. Did you
she's,
ever tell her what you said?
Yeah, I told her.
Oh, wow.
But that's the thing, I give my kids a long leash, and they don't abuse it.
That's funny, the paddle thing. That was corporal punishment or whatever. A lot of different teachers in public school, especially in junior high. I don't remember this so much in elementary school. Nobody had a paddle that I'm aware of, but the shop teachers had paddles in junior high, right? And that's where you're going to get the paddle.
Aren't you a little too old for the paddle in junior high?
Yes. I mean,
can you imagine?
I was a little too big, right? I was already.
What are you, like?
So
12 in junior high? 13?
Yeah, so it was like 250 pounds, and I was already 5'9". So
that's almost sexual.
That's as big as.
Come on, buddy, bend me over and paddle me.
So here was the thing, and I said this for a variety of things because I knew I was a larger kid, right? And I was pretty sure, not that I was any expert fighter or anything, but I was pretty sure that if an adult tried to do something to me I didn't want him to do, no matter what it was or who it was, that I could effectively strike back, right? So had a shop teacher or any teacher say in junior high, for sure by then I was 250 and 5'9". I had just gained weight up to the 250 mark. That had somebody paddle me, I would have taken the paddle.
I would hope so.
Beat the shit out of him, right? And I told that to my dad a few times. Go ahead, you put that belt back because if you hit me with that, I'm gonna.
Well, that's the other thing too, like belts and paddles and what are those little twigs called? Stitches.
Switch. Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's just kind of like laughable. It's ridiculous.
Did you ever hear the Bill Cosby before he was a sexual predator, ne'er-do-well? He had a
before
comedy,
the black. What is he? The black fly
oh my gosh.
Juice.
He was he had comedy records, and I had them all when I was a kid. That's why I'm so disgusted with Bill Cosby. But one of them was a story he would tell about when his father would get pissed at him or his brother, and then his father would say to him, "That's it. Go out and get me something to beat you with."
right. And you'd have to do it.
And he would go out and come back with a twig and go, "Here you go, Dad. Beat the hell out of me." I thought that was funnier than shit. But
let me try to bait you with this.
Uh-oh.
In this cancel culture world, is obviously Bill Cosby, is he in jail or is he out?
He's on trial.
Okay, so he's supposed to be where he's supposed to be in jail and all that shit. But is his comedy material, can you go back and listen to it and have, I don't even want to say enjoy it because the comedy itself is probably outdated, but are you still able to enjoy maybe the nostalgia of it? Or is it like, forget it, he's a fucking rapist, so therefore I can't even do that?
It's funny that you bring that up because I had an uncle when I was a kid that I really thought the world of. He was funny. He always played with me. He was a great uncle. And I've been an uncle with Debbie's family, the kids in her family for a long time. And I've always tried to make sure that I was that kind of uncle, right? Not the asshole, not the guy that wants to be your parent but isn't your parent. I don't discipline them or anything like that. And they're all grown up now, so any one of them could kick my ass sideways. But that was the good part of it. But then he broke into our house and stole money from both my sister's piggy bank and took money from my dad. My dad had multiple coffee machines at Northrop in his office, and he would sell coffee to the staff there for money and, just to get the money to pay. But he had a lot of change, rolled change. He took several $100s. And they we practically.
One time he did all this in one.
Well, he went off the rails and did that, and then we never saw him again. I never saw him again. But that shattered my, I wanted to kill him. I was already pretty large, and I said, if I ever see him again, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of him on general purposes, and mostly because he had hurt.
Is that a thing? I've never heard it described that way. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you on general purposes.
Just for general purposes. But he never showed up again, so he never had to face the wrath of a 10-year-old boy. But so when you talk about Bill Cosby, right? I idolized his comic ability when I was a kid, right? I memorized every fucking record. I could do not anymore, but at the time, it must have been irritating as hell. But I could virtually do almost any skit on any of those 5 or 6 records, right? I knew them all by heart. Chicken Heart, going down on go-karts, the thing with his father, just all that shit. And so when things started to come out, in the recent past, I just found it to be so. Yeah, I'm just off.
Do you feel? I mean, is it because
I couldn't listen to him anymore? I couldn't.
You feel dirty?
I don't feel dirty. It's the same disappointment I felt with my uncle. Right?
Yeah, but isn't there a distinction in the sense that your uncle presumably didn't leave a legacy behind? Or, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a bad example. Could you look at an old, say, family Christmas picture that included your uncle from times that predated when he stole shit?
And I could. And it's been a long time, but if I was to see a picture of him from when I was a kid, I remember, him as that. And now that I'm older, I can distinguish between the two. But for a while, I couldn't. So, and I don't make any effort to try to look up pictures of him or anything like that, because even if I can remember the good stuff, the bad feelings from that incident, he went south. He was always a little larcenous. He had a wife that really wanted more than he could provide, and he ended up stealing. We got him jobs with parents or friends of mine. He was a house painter, right? He stole from them. So, I mean, a whole bunch of things. When he went bad, he really went bad. He took a lot of advantage of my parents. He was my mom's brother, so my dad really got screwed, right, on all this stuff. So, and she had 3 brothers, and they were all kind of like this, right? One was like on the run from the IRS for his whole life, fake names and all that shit. The other one was a pretty good guy that he worked for UPS and got thrown out of a truck up in the hills in LA somewhere and was on disability for the rest of his life.
What do you mean? Like they turned too fast and he flew out?
He flew out of the open door.
Was he the driver?
He was the driver.
No way.
Yeah. If he'd stayed in the truck, he would have been killed. He was injured so bad he was in the hospital.
In this day and age, what are we up to? 2022?
Yeah.
They still drive with the door open.
Right, but probably seatbelt.
Maybe. Well, there probably was no seatbelt in the truck back then.
That's a good question. I know that there was discussion about, how he ended up flying out of the truck. Because if he'd stayed in the truck blew up. It went over a cliff and blew up. And he was thrown out of it and sustained. He should have been killed, but he lived through it. It was pretty screwed up forever after that. But, he was an okay guy. But he, again, subject to horse racing and stuff like that. So just 3 funny guys,
If you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, if the car didn't chime incessantly at you, would you wear one?
I would now. Yeah. I mean, I would now. I think in the beginning I was, even the shoulder harness, right? I can't, that's too irritating. So I used to take a fumigation clip and pull the thing down and stick the clip on the belt, right? So that it couldn't retract back up, so it stayed loose all the time. Had I been in an accident, my head would have been into the steering column or whatever. So that was kind of a waste of time. But I'm so used to it now that the thought of driving somewhere and getting in even a minor accident without a seatbelt on seems stupid, right? And so, it's funny how you get used to stuff like that.
So on the Bill Cosby thing, is that do you draw a hard line in the sand of any of the people that have these transgressions, and then they've left some art behind, whether it's a comedy record or a movie or a book, any of that stuff? Do you have a hard time going back and
can you separate the art from the man?
Yes, exactly, the art from the artist?
I find it hard because for me, the appreciation of any kind of work of art, whether it's music or painting or comedy or whatever it is somehow tied in with the persona of the person that made it. And if I don't know if I don't know anything about that person, then it's not as tied in. But if I know a lot about it, about the person that does it, and who didn't come to know Bill Cosby like a member of their own family?
Right.
TV shows, I Spy. I mean, long playing records. I mean, 6 or 7 of them, right? You feel like you knew his whole life.
Do you think, though? I mean, obviously, the allegations against him came out in modern times and post-internet era where you could look shit up. But don't you think the artists of the past are a bit of a disadvantage, or maybe an advantage, however you want to look at it, because they lived in a time where you didn't have access to their personal lives? Couldn't look shit up on Google. So what are the chances that...
So is that a pass for being a sexual predator?
No, not at all. I'm just saying it was almost as if, I guess where my mind is going, it's like you're just ignorant, right? You didn't have access to the artists. You didn't know anything about them. Maybe musicians in your day, because, you got the rock magazines or you heard it on the radio and you expected your rock stars to, be coked out with whores in hotel rooms and bash the hotel rooms.
Yeah, that didn't bother me.
But I mean, like your favorite authors or directors of movies, there wasn't information about those people.
No, but I can't think of too many other examples. I'm sure there are some, but I think it's a matter of how much you know about them, right? And so it was just it was a real personal thing, the Bill Cosby thing for me, and so I've been more disgusted by it, And he just seemed to be particularly calculating and evil.
Well, right? and not remorseful at all, not even admitting it, right? He denies the whole thing.
No, I just think he's one of those people that got a bunch of power, and I don't think it was about sex for him. I think it was about power. So I mean, he's just, it's just behavior. I don't care what the reasons are, right? I just don't see any reason why. I mean, if you're a shithead in 1950, you were probably going to be a shithead in 1980 or whatever. I mean, and so for the things that and you know what? I don't take every allegation I hear about a celebrity to heart either. But, after 50 of them, you got to kind of start paying attention, right?
Yeah, with him.
Well, I mean, and I think there's other examples. I mean, there's so not to get too far down a rabbit hole here, but, right now, the Democratic senator that left office voluntarily after Al Franken, right? He got drummed out of office by his own side for the appearance of impropriety in a picture from a time before he was even in politics. Right. And for something that was so fucking innocuous. And because the appearance of impropriety was there for the good of his party and the side of politics that he was on, he left.
Yeah, he shouldn't have left.
But and I agree with that too, and we shouldn't have let him as the members of that party. But there was, trying to walk the walk that talking the talk and then walk the walk. And that was the right thing to do.
I forget, did he pull his dick out or no?
No.
I'm thinking of somebody else because I have a picture in my mind of that exact incident.
There's a female.
It wasn't me.
There's a female radio talk show co-host that was on at the time in L.A. And on KFI. And she's pretty much right-wing. And the guy that she co-hosted for was pretty much right-wing. And she is the one so she was on a USO tour doing whatever she did. I don't know, announcing or something. Franken was on that tour. They're on a military plane. And so they're just kind of, flying in the back of the plane with the cargo or whatever. And so she is kind of kicked back on some duffel bags or something, asleep. And he comes up and takes a picture. He's looking at the camera and he's got his hands out in front of her breasts. And he's looking at the camera.
And wasn't he on SNL at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a comedian. It's funny.
Right.
Or it used to be funny.
Right. And so for that, they let him get drummed out of, he was for my money, he was an important U.S. senator on the Democratic side. And so now you take a shithead like Cruz, right? And he's calling for Cruz's resignation because Cruz is, part of January 6th and just everything else that fucking did.
Who's calling for Cruz's resignation?
Al Franken, right? He's going, hey.
Well, who's looking for him? What's he doing?
Who, Ted Cruz?
No, Franken.
No, Franken is calling. He's going, listen, I was drugged.
Where is he calling for this, though?
In the media.
Oh.
Right. I mean, if he wants to be on a talk show, he's on it.
I
right?
guess.
You know, he should come back. I mean,
by the way,
yeah.
Have you seen some of these text message threads that are coming out from like all the people involved on the January 6th thing, Ted Cruz included?
I'm a big fan of the hearings.
Yeah, I figured you would be.
So can't watch them all because I don't have that kind of time or patience.
Some of the messages he sent were like,
Ted Cruz?
Yeah, just so nonchalant, hey, dude, what's happening? Call me back. It's just like, never mind the city's on fire.
Yeah, they're gonna hang Mike Pence. Call me back when you get a chance.
And that dude was something else I read. He was like the attackers were 40 feet from him.
Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did we previously know that?
He was on the other side of a door. Right?
Yeah.
And they're outside his office. They didn't know he was in there.
Right.
A lot of stories about this. I think I just want to. I'm going to kind of maybe not talk much about it at this point. I mean, I don't think we're learning anything new, but we are seeing videos we haven't seen. We are hearing testimony we haven't heard. There's a lot more to come. They've done 3 out of 6 or 8 or something.
Well, I have to ask you, what are your feelings about Ivanka and the Trump, what are they, Junior, and what's the other one's name?
Yeah, well,
about their role.
Ivanka already said that once Bill Barr said that there was no election fraud, that she no longer felt that there was. So
remind me, when did he make that comment in relation to January 6th? Was it weeks before, days before? I forget.
It was before January 6th.
I know, but how much before?
Weeks, I think. So, I mean, here's the point of a bunch of that testimony. What did the president know and when did he know it, right? So, some people try to make this out like, well, he really thought there was election fraud, and so he was legitimately trying to save the election from being stolen. But everybody with a shred of credibility told him there was no election fraud,
including his beloved, trusted daughter.
Right.
She told him that, right?
Right.
She said she believed that it was true from Barr, but she also told him that too, right? She told her dad.
Right. She believed Barr when he said there was no election fraud. She also had communicated that to him several times, and everybody that's been asked about it has also said that was. So the point is, it is not feasible that he had been told from every credible source there was no election fraud, and he continued to put that theory out there, not to try to stop fraud, but to try to further his own interest of staying in power. They're trying to show that, right? There's some legal ramifications to that. What's-her-face Cheney has made the case for prosecution. Now, is he going to get prosecuted? Would it fly? It would be a hard one. But I think the more important thing is the true story gets out there and whether he is prosecuted. I mean, for me, no matter how egregious this is, the question of do we want to go after an ex-president during the next president?
I know you've said that before.
It's not a good look.
Yeah, but is it necessary?
Well,
like, why would we not do it if it's necessary because the optics are bad? What does that say?
Well, because it's what third world countries with dictators do. And so we don't want to do that.
Well, I know what we're waiting for.
The other question is, then what does it mean if we don't do it? Is there no rule of law? Do we sacrifice
it's better if you do it when it's a sitting president. So when he gets reelected in 24, then they'll go get him and they'll say, we got a sitting president.
Well, that's not completely out of the realm
I
of
know.
possibility. Yeah, I just think that I continue to feel I can't remember how much we discussed this prior to the hiatus, but excuse me. I continue to feel that the democracy on the precipice of catastrophe. Really, I think we're on the verge here.
We are now, or we were.
We were, and we are. We still are. I mean, here's the thing: the Democrats appear to be feckless in their ability to win this election. They're gonna eat shit in the midterms, and I don't think that anybody can say that it's somebody else's fault. I mean, they don't have a message. I don't put this at Biden's feet one way or the other.
That's what I've been saying all along.
There's an entire party that's not doing anything, right? And so they're just blowing it. I mean,
It's so great to see. Like I've always said, Democrats' solutions to problems are terrible.
Well, like I always say, there's nobody better at snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat, or snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory than the Democrats. So This last election should have been a referendum, right? It should have been, and his approval rating should be higher, but people are just screwed up. And then look, no matter how you look at it, half the country, you look at his thing, it's 40% or something, right? Well, 10%, 15% or 20% don't give a shit. And the rest, whatever that leaves, are all Republicans, and they're vulcanized, they're polarized, right? So I'm not surprised, but it's going to be unfortunate because I think we're going to see we're going to lose the House. We could lose the Senate. I mean, we're not going to take back the Senate. We could lose the House, and we could lose the Senate. I mean, the whole balance of power could shift, and then we're in deep shit because the people that were in place to stop the fraud that this group, the lawyer for Trump, I keep forgetting all the names now. Mark Meadows,
it's been a while.
All the guys, Navarro, they the lawyer, the dipshit with the trench coat and the cowboy hat that spoke at the rally, right? He was the professor, he was the chancellor at Santa Ana College or Chapman College.
I know you always say that you and then on the state secretaries of states who refuse, like you always say that it's like a matter of 3 or 4 people that if they had been convinced to go the other way,
those swing states would have flipped.
But I don't know about that. I mean, I honestly think that even if the Capitol riots were worse or whatever, right? They just would have withheld the vote or the certification or whatever you call it until another day when things calm down. They would have done it digitally. They would have moved it to another place. That was still going to happen.
No doubt, but that doesn't make that any less of an attempted coup or an insurrection or whatever, whatever inflammatory language you want to use. The fact is that the conspiracy to commit the crimes that we're talking about, to subvert the election, let's say nothing had happened on January 6th. If there had been an investigation into the plot that Trump and his cohorts were cooking up, they give it a football. They named it after a football play, the Grand Sweep or some shit like that. They were, to change the electors and put in false electors and send the vote back to the states. That came close to happening. And if those people weren't there, it would have happened. And they're not going to be there.
What do you think would have happened hypothetically if all that went down, no riot, but they got, false electors or whatever, and they switched the results back to Trump? And what do you think the Democrats would have done?
Well, I think, and as many of Trump's advisors and Pence's advisors told Trump directly, it would have caused a constitutional crisis and probably would have resulted in violence in the streets.
Why do you think he would care about a constitutional crisis when he doesn't seem to care about anything else?
Well, it's not him that I'm worried about caring. It's a constitutional crisis, and we are never more vulnerable as a country, as a nation, than we would be in the midst of an irreconcilable constitutional crisis. That would vex the government into a position of complete inability to do anything. Could result. I mean, the possible martial law. I mean, who the hell knows, right? Violence in the streets. I mean, that's how democracies fall, right?
How much longer do you give us as a country?
It just depends on how things go. I mean, it's not a done deal, but if we're completely blind to the obvious danger signs that are out there, if we don't move to fix some of the problems with the institutions, right? We need to realize that some of the things that were being accomplished in politics through forbearance are gone now because Trump blew up the norms. And now it's not a matter of, hey, we would never do this or that because that's not what's done. It's like, we'll do whatever the hell we want to do. We don't care what's been done in the past, and we don't care what the consequences are. If it gives us some short-term, goal that is
that's clear.
Is typically associated with retaining power. I mean, without the peaceful transition of power as a result of a free and fair election, this country has nothing. What
is the longest success story of a civilization that you can think of in recorded history?
I don't know. It wasn't a democracy, though.
What's the longest successful democracy?
America.
So there's no other benchmark.
Can you think of another one?
And where my mind was going is that none of them last forever. There's nothing that you could point to in history where there hasn't been some type of change or violent takeover or civil war or whatever.
Right, but it's not predetermined that it ends in a collapse and back to dictatorship.
Civil split.
Huh?
Civil split.
Civil split. America and
Republican and
Democratic. All right.
Where do we fit common sensica in there?
Yeah, that'll be somewhere in the middle.
Well, where I was starting to ask you though, do you feel at all a little bit better that do the Trump children seem to you like they were not involved in the plan? Do you feel better that they were the ones sending these messages saying, what the fuck is going on? He's got to get out in front of this. He has to address the media. Like they were trying to, they saw it for what it was. Is that better at all? Is it worse?
I give I can't tell you how so few fucks I give what any of his children think about anything.
But what I'm really getting
I'm
at
not
is,
sure any of them have ever had a thought to begin
well,
with.
they tried to think, but nothing happened.
I heard through media that the tapes they played, her testimony to the Jan 6 committee, he's pissed. Like, she's out of the will. So,
right. Is that she did it by video? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's bad.
But does it at least show that Trump himself, I mean, those his kids are his closest inner circle, right? I mean, fuck, he moved his kids off of the talk show or whatever the hell he had down to D.C. to help manage the government.
In the White House. I think if there was one person on the face of this planet that I would not wish to be my father, it would be Donald Trump. I mean, I can't imagine a worse parent ever, right? And I don't know. I'm anxious to see what kind of little megalomaniac Barron turns out to be.
He could be normal.
He could be the Tsar of Slovenia, right?
Maybe
wherever what's her name is from. So, it's just. I mean, I think it's more important what the people that actually have political power. Every single one of them condemned the whole plot, and after January 6th, and then all of them went back. McCarthy, McConnell.
Yeah, even McConnell was saying, if Trump is the Republican nominee, he would support that.
I mean, and Mark Meadows was,
which he's not been drawn into the investigation, or he has.
McConnell?
No, Meadows.
Oh, Meadows. No, he's on referral to the Justice Department
because he won't testify.
Yeah, for the subpoena thing. So we'll see. I mean, they have a zillion emails between Mark Meadows and who's going to testify maybe at the next hearing is the Clarence Thomas's wife, whatever her name is, Cece, Dee Dee, Comfy, Jeannie, yeah, Jeannie.
What's she going to say?
Well, she's active. She was active during the day of January 6th. She sent 100 emails to Mark Meadows saying, "We've got to stop this deal. We've got to get this back to the electors." So and then there's a huge conflict of interest because Clarence Thomas was the only yes vote on a bill that had to do with what was it? But it was obvious that he was, influenced by her position on January 6th. He was the only yes or no vote on something that affected.
Is there any smoke there? Has he sent anything?
They are. I mean, everybody that matters has called for his resignation. He should minimally, assuming there was no impropriety associated with that vote, he should pull himself off any future cases that have to do with the Jan 6 Commission or testimony or anything like that. But he's not doing that, right? He's not adhering. He's not showing the forbearance.
Maybe in his mind, he has nothing to hide.
Well, I mean, in his mind, just like in his wife's mind, and just like for all these fuckers that are involved in this plot to overthrow the results of the election, they feel that their goal outweighs the things that they are doing that are wrong. I mean, and when you get that mindset that the ends justify the means, that's just how corruption and tyranny begin, right? And we just got to wake up a little bit. Here's what I think is going to happen. We're going to lose our asses in the midterms. We'll see what that means. Good possibility that both houses of Congress shift back over. Then we have 2 more years of a Biden presidency with, no ability to do anything in the Congress. That could lead to desperate frustration from the country. This is assuming it's not Trump that goes in. So whoever becomes president on the Republican side, DeSantis or whoever the most likely outcome of that is, hopefully, when people look back over the 2 years that that follow the midterms and see that Congress prevented the president that they elected, that they chose, from accomplishing anything that needed to be done, they won't like that, and they'll flip the switch, and they'll go back for a Democratic president and probably flip the legislatures back.
I know it's endless cycle of nonsense.
It is, and part of the problem is that in the past, this all would have been effective and it worked a little differently. But the fact that Trump was impeached twice in his single term and virtually there was no consequence, regardless of whether you agreed with it or not, that just means that, unfortunately, the door is open for future Republican presidents to do the same shit, right? And if you get impeached twice in a 4-year term and there's no consequence, then what do you care? You just do what you're going to do, whatever you think is going to help secure you retaining power. Maybe next time there won't be a peaceful transfer of power, right? So we'll just have to see.
What was the second impeachment again? I forget.
That was the first one was the Russia
was
thing.
the quid pro quo thing.
Yeah,
wasn't that the first one?
God, I can't. The second one was after. No, was. I don't remember.
I don't either. I know we covered it.
Yeah, fuck. I got.
Isn't that interesting though? How long has he been gone? 2 years? Year and a half?
Well, there was so much. It's hard to keep him straight.
I know.
Right? So much bullshit.
I'm fascinated. I'm going to ask you this. I've asked you this before, but I'm just fascinated by people's views on this. On the January 6th Capitol riot, do you think those people actually thought that they had a chance of overturning the government?
I think that.
Do you think they even knew what was going on in there?
So here's a couple of things that, if we're going to talk about this for a minute, there was this Stop the Steal rally, right, at the Eclipse, which is 2 miles from the Capitol. You can see the Capitol from the Eclipse, but it's way down there, right? So you got to look back at the timeline, which the committee is, going over in detail. So the two groups, the two paramilitary groups that Trump had aligned with, the Proud Boys and what's the other one?
Captain America? I don't know.
No, the paramilitary, the Proud Boys and the Oath Takers.
Yeah.
Right? So they both were there.
Stand back and stand down, and
that was a Proud
very
Boys.
good people on both sides.
So they were all there in the crowd, right? Before Trump even started talking, those two groups left and headed for the Capitol with their people and a bunch of other people following them. So what that means is they already knew that the plan was to go to the Capitol. So then all Trump had to do was come out and whip up the other 4,000 or 5,000 people there into a frenzy, knowing that. Now, if that had happened, if the two paramilitary groups didn't take off ahead of time in stacks, right, military formation, they wouldn't have got there in time. Somebody, the Capitol Police or somebody, could have called in other forces that, and if Trump wasn't in on this, that would have been authorized by Pence or Trump or somebody to come in and defend the Capitol. Because you don't walk 2 miles in a group in 2 minutes, right? So they left an hour and a half before the speech was even done. Yeah, they knew what the purpose was. They were the forward groups to go and start the invasion.
So I read a report a couple of days ago. At the time, there was some liberal, maybe college professor or something, that he tweeted information, and he also, I think, sent a note to the FBI saying that he believes that on January 6th there will be an attempted attack at the Capitol.
Right. You can't keep something like that. I mean, they planned this out. The going to the Capitol and breaching the Capitol was the plan. It was always the plan.
From the paramilitary groups.
Yeah, and from Trump's posse, Navarro, the lawyer, John, God, his name is not coming to me. I've only heard it 1 million times. He's the mastermind of the plan. He's the one that came up with him and Navarro. And other people, the Flynn, right, Stone, all these guys were in on it. They met at hotels. They had planning sessions before. So they had been in contact. They were talking to the Proud Boys and the Homeboys and the whatever it was. and so that was the plan. You guys take off with your quasi-military formation, your riot gear and all the other shit, and you head to the Capitol. All Trump had to do was come out And if you watch that lawyer and you watched Guilfoyle and you watched, who, by the way, got $60,000, right, for 3 minutes. Well,
for her speech?
Trump raised $250 million.
Who, did I ask you this before?
Yeah.
Who divorced who? Newsom or Guilfoyle?
I don't know that they were married.
I thought they were.
Guilfoyle, I think.
Whatever her name is. Weren't they a thing?
They were a thing, but I don't know that they were married.
Okay. Who broke up with who? This is important.
I'm sure he did.
Oh, we better find out, because if she left him, that tells you all you need to know about the California governor.
I can't stand her. But so Trump raised $250 million off his supporters as a January 6th defense fund. No such thing. There was never any money put aside for a defense fund or anything else. The money went to Trump Industries, went to $60,000 went to Guilfoyle for speaking fees for that rally. So that's another whole story, right? Is that illegal? Is that fraud? Probably a little borderline. But anyway, the point was all Trump had to do was come out after all the other speakers and whip the crowd into the final frenzy. Say, hey, all right, if Trump, if Pence doesn't do what he needs to do, I'm going to be very upset with him. And then
it was even more. Go down there. I'll go with you.
We're going to the Capitol.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with you. But by the time he said that, the paramilitary guys were already down
had left
there.
an hour before.
Yeah, they're already there. They're coming through the freedom.
Did we know that at the time?
No, that's coming out in the hearings. Nobody knew that.
Well, what does that say then? Does that say that was an independent movement that was going to happen regardless?
Here's what this wasn't. A spontaneous crowd reaction in protest to the...
Well, that's what I was getting at. So does that...
It's a planned insurrection.
But does that shield Trump at all because the other group left an hour before? Does that show that...
It shows that he was giving them direction, that there was a plan that he was adhering to, that he played a role in that plan, that they knew about it.
So it's like mind control. When I take the stage and say this, that's your cue.
Hello, they got phones, right? And you can see recordings of the guys in the paramilitary groups on their way to the Capitol hearing that Pence was not going to, abstain or whatever the hell, right? And they're like, that's when they go, well, that's it. We're coming for you. Hear this in the hearing, right? The guy in the paramilitary group talking to the camera as they're marching. We're coming for you, motherfucker. We're going to hang your ass. Right? I mean, he said it literally. I showed that 20 times.
Was this the video game, or is that you're playing, or was that the...
this is the recording.
Okay.
Right? So, because there was a couple of actual documentarians embedded with the Proud Boys, so they were filming this whole thing. That's how we know the Proud Boys left early. Nobody really understood that. There's 4,000 people there. Nobody was keeping track. But this guy went with his film crew with the Proud Boys to the
Were there more people there storming the Capitol than were present at Trump's inauguration?
Probably.
Is that what he was trying to do? He's like, I got to fucking go out on top with a crowd.
Oh, my God. I think he was trying to do exactly what he was doing. I think that once it got to January 6th and the Congress was going to certify the election results, that was his last chance to hold on to power, to retain the position. The plan was to stall the certification for 10 days, send it back to the states, give him a chance to continue pushing the big lie and saying repeatedly over and over again that the election, there was massive fraud, that it was being covered up, and that in that 10 days, any number of things could have happened. More people could have got on his side. People are, it's like religion, right? It's like Jesus Christ was up there talking and people are like, following it just because they don't need proof or anything. So, I mean, that was the precipice, man. And
we gotta find another way, dude.
Another way what?
Of doing this shit, this elections. We got to modernize it.
Just have the election.
It's so fucking complicated.
Have the election and certify the election. I mean,
why do you need to certify?
Let's not go through January. That's what I mean. Let's not go through January 6th.
Yeah.
Don't give the next group of these assholes a chance to. Okay, well, hey, it didn't work last time, but we'll do it better.
It's like the goddamn tax code. It's so complicated that there's no one single person that understands it. It's been Band-Aid against Band-Aid.
That's right. It's like the tax code. Throw the tea into the ocean.
Exactly. All right, we had enough fun today, my friend.
I think I'm about physically at my deal. So
it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
I'm sure you have to pee.
We'll see. I have to do a number of things.
All right, until next time, everybody.
Bye-bye.